Um, we're going to Al Jazeera for this one. So I guess since we last talked, Iran was getting a little bit jealous. Trump had seized those couple vessels. He seized them and he said, "No, you're not coming through here. Turn around." And they said, "Fine." Apparently, I'm all of this is like alleged. We don't know for sure how accurate this sort of stuff is. But yeah. And so Iran decided they were going to get in on the boat seizing action. Um, so we're gonna watch this video and see what's going on with this. This is Iran seizes 2 vessels in Strait of Hormuz amid U.S. blockade. Let's go.
Revolutionary Guard Corps has seized 2 cargo ships after attacking vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Tasnim news agency says the Navy has seized the Epaminondas and the MSC Francesca off the Iranian coast near Siddiq. Iran accuses the vessels of operating without authorization and manipulating navigation systems.
These vessels have been transferred to the territorial waters of the Islamic Republic of Iran for inspection of their cargo and documents. The IRGC Navy once again emphasized that any action aimed at disrupting the implementation of the laws announced by the Islamic Republic of Iran regarding transit in the Strait of Hormuz, as well as activities contrary to safe passage in this strategic waterway, will be continuously monitored by the IRGC Navy, and violators will face decisive and lawful action.
Hello, ma'am. Welcome back. Wow, I like that. I like that emoji.
Meanwhile, the ceasefire has been extended despite stalled efforts to reach a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. President Donald Trump says Pakistan asked the U.S. to hold off on attacking Iran so Iranian leaders can submit a unified proposal. Now, Iran's ambassador to the UN says talks will...
Yeah, so Iran is they're just reasserting control, right? They want. I've heard multiple things so far. So I've heard that Iran has been shipping oil, that like 26 vessels potentially have made it through the America's blockade. I'm taking that with a grain of salt. I don't know if we have if that's been confirmed or anything. But also they're trying to show that no, America is not capable of having selectively blockading this, because obviously Iran could shut it off for everybody. All they have to do is shoot a missile, right? The problem with America's blockade is that they can't just fire a missile, generally speaking, at other carriers, because that's going to then be an international incident with whoever owns that ship. So this is just Iran reasserting control, the dueling narratives, and I don't know. It's probably a good strategy, just to show that they're still capable of doing this and just put a little bit more pressure. It's also interesting the timing, how it came directly after Trump extended the ceasefire. It was almost like a it was almost like a Trump move. You remember when Iran agreed to open the strait, and then Trump came in and said, "No, essentially a sign of capitulation to Trump," is how he interpreted it. And he said the blockade's actually staying for Iran. This time it's kind of the reverse, where Trump capitulated to Iran by extending the ceasefire, and then Iran just right off the bat said, "Okay, well, we're also going to start seizing these ships." So but they always had this capability. They just and they were executing this to an extent, or before the ceasefire, they were really just blockading the waterway with threats of missile fire, I guess. So this might be one of the first times that they are, I think the first time that I'm aware of, that they're actually seizing a vessel. So
will resume as soon as the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports ends. But Washington has said the naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz will continue until a peace deal is done. Now, we've got correspondents at the White House, in Islamabad, in Dubai, and in Tehran. We're going to start with Ali Hashim in the Iranian capital. So, Ali, the ceasefire is extended, but Iran seizes 2 ships. What are the messages coming from Iran?
Well, the ceasefire is one thing for the Iranians, and the blockade is another. And they've vowed yesterday that they are going to continue and resume the work on defending the strait, the closure of the strait, as they're doing from their own side, and the other side trying to confront the blockade. And given the fact that today's incident took place, it's clear that this.
And then, yeah, so, and also, like, I guess I would say that Iran has a reasonable, like, you can reason that this is, like, necessary from Iran's perspective, like, from a, like, international law perspective, even though international laws are fake and they don't matter anymore because of Gaza. But still, like, if you want to argue this from an international law perspective, they are essentially at war with, you know, the United States and all of the United States allies that are surrounding them. So they do have to be very careful about what vessels are being allowed to do what throughout this waterway that goes right up next to their territory. Like, I think it would be unreasonable to say that you can't try to, like, protect your coastline during a time of war, right? So it would be like if someone said, you can't block the, I don't know what, like the Panama Canal or something, or the Gulf of Mexico, or, you know, you can't, like, we're not going to, like, if we were at war with someone, we wouldn't allow free flow of ships just going, like, right up to our coastline, you know? So, I mean, I think that's a relatively reasonable thing for them to be doing, personally.
This is part of the new status quo in the seas surrounding the Gulf and the Arab region, tit for tat. That will, of course, I mean, this is coming just after days from the United States seizing of an Iranian ship. So now we're seeing the Iranians seizing another 2 ships. So this is going to continue as far as the blockade is there, and as far as the Strait of Hormuz is closed also.
Ali, thanks a lot. We're going to bring in Mike Hanna at the White House. So Donald Trump, Mike, saying that the U.S. is going to still blockade the Strait of Hormuz. It's now waiting for Iran to come back with what's been described as a unified response. What are you hearing from the White House?
Well, President Trump made clear that he believes the blockade is still an important piece of leverage for him. He did so in a Truth Social statement.
Okay, it's literally the exact opposite of a piece of leverage for him. It's a piece of leverage for Iran. Like the continued blockade. Like, I mean, I said it when it happened, I guess, but, like, when America decided to maintain the blockade after the Iranian FM came out and said, oh, we're opening up the strait, it was one of the stupidest moves I've ever seen in geopolitics, honestly. It's rare to see a move that stupid, because the main pressure point that is on America, like, that is going to continue putting pressure on America to, like, end this conflict on terms that are not favorable to America, is the world economy and, like, the gas prices at home. Like, so it's, but primarily also, like, the shortages in the Philippines and soon to be in Europe as well, the, like, actual energy shortages. Like if people if Western countries do not get their, like, perfect, like, energy system, like, if they start having, like, rolling blackouts in Europe and stuff, people will be rioting. Like, they're going to be like, why? Like, they're going to be so pissed off at their government for allowing America to like, essentially do this to them. It's going to be an immense amount of pressure, and all of that could have been alleviated if he had just not kept the blockade. So the pressure, like, Iran can sustain this pressure, can sustain the economic pressure that America is going to put on it with not allowing it to ship oil. They, number one, have other land routes that they can use, which isn't as efficient, but they can still ship their oil, or, like, sell their oil that way. But also they've built up an entire resilient economy in terms of, like, sanctions, like the sanction system that we put on them. So a lot of their industries are homegrown. They're all internal. So I don't know. Like, yes, it'll be a hit on them, but they also have a cause that they believe in defending their country from America's like pedo billion overlords or pedo billionaire overlords. So like yeah, it's just such a dumb mistake that we made.
In the course of yesterday evening, he says Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day. He wrote, they only say they want it closed because I have it totally blockaded. So they merely want to save face. Now, a few days.
It's so funny. So much projection, dude. That's what he did. That's literally what he did. They had blockaded it, and then he put a blockade on the blockade. It's literally the exact opposite. It's exactly what he did. Trump loves to do that, man, where he just like takes the strategy of the opposing side and then tries to do it to them, and then accuses them of like copying him. Like, you know, it's like it's very 12-year-old coded.
Days ago, President Trump was saying that the Strait of Hormuz doesn't matter because the U.S. doesn't rely on it for oil. However, now it's obviously a central part of his policy and a central part of attempting to show that the U.S. has not backed down in terms of extending this particular ceasefire. There's something that is very important for President Trump to continue to appear to show strength in the face of what is amounting to Iranian defiance of his wishes to get the talks going again. Also a problem for the Trump administration, several sources are saying, is the fact that they're not quite clear who they are talking with in Iran, who are the decision makers. The main negotiator was assassinated by the Israelis, Ali Larijani. The supreme leader, the former one, was assassinated in the early part of the war. Now the U.S. government appears to be left.
God, it's so funny, dude. They assassinate all of the people that they're supposed to like, that they would need to negotiate with in order to extricate themselves from this conflict. And then they're like, where is everybody? Where is everybody? Who am I supposed to be talking to? It's like, oh my God. They also they assassinated all of the like most conciliatory people to the West, like the Ayatollah, the former Ayatollah Khomeini, was like always wanted to just get a deal with America. Like that was all he wanted. He wanted to negotiate with America, even going against like what a lot of the IRGC people said. It was that America didn't understand anything but force, but Khomeini thought that he could get a deal, and then they killed him. And then now look at where they are. America is shooting itself in the foot left and right. It's crazy.
With the Islamic Republican Guard Corps to negotiate with, notoriously hardline, and the previous leaders who have been killed were in fact guardrails against the complete power of the ICRG.
Okay, let's go back to Ali Hashim, who's still in Tehran for us, of course. So Donald Trump had previously said that the U.S. was negotiating with people that he described as reasonable, but we understand now he's saying it's because part of the problem is that Iran's leadership is fractured. Do we have any indication who is providing the responses to the U.S. right now?
Well, you know, when you're in Tehran, the view is different, especially when you are watching how the system is working in Tehran. It's completely different from what is being said. I mean, the issue is that there is a system, there is a leadership, there are institutions, there is a foreign ministry. These are all part of the decision-making cycle in Iran, and nothing.
Yeah, I think especially the media, tends to orientalize Iran a lot in terms of like thinking that, like, not even understanding that they have an entire system of like institutions built literally particularly for this exact moment. And so like, I mean, if you want to like sometimes it helps for Americans to like see this from like what would they think if it happened to us, right? So like if someone came in and killed our entire let's say Donald Trump, Pete Kegsbreath, and Marco Rubio all in like one strike or something, right? Let's say that happened. Does that mean that our entire system collapses immediately? Like, right? That seems a little silly, right? We have all these institutions, we have all of these all of these plans for who the succession to the presidency, all of these command structures that can operate relatively on their own if they had to. Our entire military structure, like if for some reason all the like every leader, every potential president was like knocked out of line through a single strike or something, the military would probably be fine because they that as an institution, is able to be relatively self-sufficient. Like, so take all of those thoughts that you have about what would happen if it happened to us, and think of Iran as like a real country, and like they are going to have all of those same sorts of like, decision-making bodies and institutions as well. So it's important, especially if you're at war with someone, to not like underestimate them and not like orientalize them as like some like primitive people, backwards people that is not able to like come up with like systems of like institutions that are able to sustain like economic and military hardship, especially when it's a country like Iran that has been preparing for this exact moment for like 40 years. That's a very dumb, like that's a very dumb thing to do. Sun Tzu would not be proud of you if you did that.
Thing has changed when it comes to how things work in this. There's a workflow. Now, the killing of the Supreme Leader, the killing of the Supreme National Security Council Secretary, other people who are in charge, wasn't left without being replaced. So there's no vacuum. And when there's no vacuum, the workflow continues as it used to be. However, there's something, yes, different now in Iran, is that the team surrounding the Supreme Leader is very harmonized. Actually, it's his own team for the past 15 years. And now, after they've worked in the shadows for all that time, now they are in charge. So we see Mohammed Baqir Dhul Qadr being the Supreme National Security Council, the commanders in the IRGC, for example, Ahmed Wahidi or...
So I'm going to be honest, I don't really know if the new Supreme Leader Khamenei is alive. At first I thought that he was, because it seems silly to me that they would lie about like that. But we haven't seen him, to be honest. It's possible that the IRGC potentially are using like that idea of him as the leader, as a transitional like figure to whoever they like, to buy time, essentially, potentially. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know if he's still alive. But regardless of that, whether he is or isn't, I would agree with this guy's assessment that the people at the top are probably more in tune and on the same page than ever before. You got rid of all of the conciliatory, like peaceful, like people who wanted to negotiate with the West or thought that, it didn't have to come to this or whatever. We got rid of all of them. So I guarantee you that they are all now much more on the same page. And you can kind of see how, like, how quickly they're like, how I feel like perfectly align all of the strategies of these like institutions are, except for maybe the negotiation team, which I don't know if they are. There has been a little bit of a disconnect that I've seen between those two. But in terms of like the military and like all of the decision makers inside of Iran, I would say that they are definitely seem to be much more on the same page now.
Aziz Ja'fari or his assistant Hussein Ta'ib or Mohammed Baqir Qalib. These are all people who were the men around the new Supreme Leader when he wasn't the Supreme Leader. So the decision making is smooth among them, and it's supposed that the Supreme National Security Council and the Foreign Ministry are the ones conveying the answers. So other than that, there are no signs that there is a...
It could have also just been a miscommunication when the FM, sometimes says things that the IRGC is not on board with. It could just be miscommunication as well. So maybe there's that. But I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the political negotiating team versus the IRGC.
Fractured leadership here in Tehran.
Ali Hashim, live for us there in Tehran. Thanks, Ali. We're going to go back to Mike Hanna at the White House. Mike, just before we do, I just want to point out our viewers to the top right-hand corner of the screen there. That is the current price of Brent crude at the moment. It's sitting over $100 a barrel. It's been moving between 10 and it was up to about 19 at one point. You can see the figure ticking up and down there. This is an indication, of course, the kind of level of uncertainty that the world has with.
It should probably be a lot higher, to be honest. Man, everybody's just living on the hopes and dreams of like that Daddy Trump is going to find some way to like pull out of this conflict. But I got bad news for them. Trump's pullout game isn't that good when it comes to wars, I feel like. But
with regard to, we have a ceasefire extension. There is speculation that talks may be carrying on, and nevertheless there is this uncertainty which is being reflected, at least in part, by the energy prices. Now, in terms of domestic politics, how long do you think Donald Trump can continue all of this? What are analysts telling you from the States?
Well, the oil price is certainly felt by Americans at the gas stations, but it goes far further than that. A diesel plays an important part in the transportation of everyday goods, and the price of those goods are rising incrementally as this war continues. It's a deeply unpopular war within the United States, and the polls indicate that President Trump's own personal standing is the lowest it has.
well, and not only like that's the local perspective from Americans who don't like it because, you know, like burger price go up or whatever, you know. But then there's also like the international aspect, which I think is more important, honestly, than the American domestic political concern, because like there are, you know, capitalists and billionaires all across the world who are going to potentially see their profits take a hit from this, potentially. You know, that like, so like they're going to be making boss calls to Donald Trump and the American empire, which is supposed to be, you know, the spear that like strikes at the heart, like the spear, or I guess the shield and spear of protecting capital. I guess shield would make more sense, of protecting capital. Like that's what the American army and military bases are supposed to do, is like in terms of the international world order. So if that's not happening, then yeah, he's going to be getting boss calls from all of the Epstein affiliates that he has lost touch with, you know? So I don't know. Like I think that's probably more important than you know, the gas prices at home potentially, but the domestic political pressure is is sincere. I don't know if it'll affect his popularity too much more, or like, you know, amongst his base at least. But it will definitely impact like things like the midterms and stuff. So, yeah.
Ever been, and probably the lowest of any president. One poll puts him at 30% favorable rate. So it is having a dramatic political impact on the United States and on the Trump administration. But further than that, there are, of course, midterm elections in November. President Trump has been looking forward to that. He has been on his campaign trail already, even during this conflict. And this could have a massive and dramatic effect at those November voting to the detriment of President Trump and his Republican Party. So he wants out of here. Very clearly, he has extended the ceasefire because he does not want to go back to war again, because that would lead to a renewing of the war and an extension of it. So he is looking for an off-ramp. All indicators, all analysts believe that this is the case, and he wants one. But how is he going to...
All analysts except for Fox News. But I don't know if I would call them analysts.
You get it? Well, that is the question, because none of those around him...
I'd call them propagandists. That's what I would call them.
But how is he going to get it? Well, that is the question, because none of those around him, he spent the day sitting with his National Security Council yesterday, none of those around him appear to be certain as to what course he should take. They are leaving it up to him. They did not know going into that.
They're like, don't let my name, please don't let my name be associated with whatever decision he makes here. Yeah, his problem is what I've been saying is that there is no way out of this that would not be a severe blow to America, like America's military projection powers, right? Um like Iran has proven what they are able to do on the battlefield. They've proven that, like, first and foremost, that they were able to sustain um like not collapse. Like that's number one. From being bombed as much as as much as America possibly could. But they also were able to continuously fire on all of the countries in the Middle East throughout the entire conflict, matching escalation for escalation. They showed that they can militarily control who goes in or out of the strait. America's not going to be able to blockade them forever. So like that's too much. It costs too much. So they've shown that they can do that militarily. They've taken out dozens of bases in the region. They've hit Israel really hard. Like they still have at least like I mean they still have thousands of missiles and I'd say hundreds of thousands of drones like ready to use. And so yeah, they've just that. So then America, like those are the realities. Those are the material realities of how the conflict went. And then America is trying to find some way to get out of this conflict without admitting that those are the material realities on the ground. And that is just not really possible. Iran's not going to let it happen. Iran's not going to let America get out of this, I think, without showing, like, without knowing that if America does this to them again, that they will face the exact same consequences and the exact same outcomes if they do. So, yeah, I just think there is nothing that Trump can do here. And that's why he's flailing, like, I don't know, like a bird or something, like a bird with its head cut off. Yeah.